The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. That too.
Probably have to talk about it during the specials.
Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. But good morning, everyone. Oh man, I got to get all the way up to the top here. Give me a second, you guys. I'm sorry. Good morning, you guys. It is Tuesday, July 8th. No, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, July 9th.
Yeah.
But that's why you have
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Did they not? They didn't get my freaking thing done. Bro, you guys cannot start the show if the teleprompter is not set up.
We can do July 8th again. July 8th happens to be my birthday.
Oh no!
So happy birthday!
Happy belated birthday, Shaun.
Sweet 16, never been kissed, huh, Shaun? Okay,
I'm getting.
Jeez. Yeah, you guys, we can't start the show if the teleprompter is not started. Just as a rule of thumb for going forward, you guys. But thank goodness I have the script right here, because good morning, you guys. It is Wednesday, July 9th, and today is National Dimples Day, and thank goodness I have dimples. That's it. Nothing. Huh? Okay. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Jenny smirk says it all. It's also.
No, I just don't know why we. Never mind. Go ahead.
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
I'm going to speak during our first commercial. Continue.
It's also National Sugar Cookie Day.
Ooh, okay. Like those.
Yeah, shout out to sugar cookies. Shout out to sugar cookies. Anyways, and thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms this morning. And we are going to kick this thing off with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their life back on track. And here she is today to speed up the track and the pace. It is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Yep. Sometimes you got to keep shit rolling. All right. So coming up later this week, Congress could reshape the hemp industry as we know it, and Texas could be fucked. On Thursday, the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee is set to consider a sweeping amendment that would dramatically tighten federal restrictions on hemp-derived products. The amendment, introduced by Representative Andy Harris, would redefine legal hemp, criminalizing any hemp product containing measurable THC or cannabinoids with intoxicating effects, including Delta-8, THCO, THCA flower, and even smokable hemp, effectively closing what proponents call the hemp loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill. Supporters say it's necessary for public safety, noting the surge in unregulated hemp products nationwide. But critics from both the hemp and marijuana industries and even wine and spirits lobby argue the proposal is overly broad and could collapse a legitimate multi-billion-dollar market. If approved by the committee, the amendment would head to the full Senate and then into the final spending bill that could mark the most significant federal clampdown on hemp since its legalization in the 2018 Farm Bill. Stay tuned. We'll track that Senate vote on Thursday and bring you the updates on how this could impact stores, farmers, and consumers across the country. So, they're trying to close the loophole, you guys, and some states only have that loophole industry. So I'll throw it back to you guys. I'm sure I'll have more to say later. But, yeah, Shaun, how do you feel about that in Texas? What are you going to smoke?
Woof. I've been my eye on this one for a minute. It's hard because you can't be in two places at once. So I've been wanting to do more work on the federal level, but I prioritize Texas, hoping that Texas would influence federal policy later in the fall. I feel like they've brought this up before and they haven't been able to pass it before.
Yep.
There are organizations, I think even Steve D'Angelo is circulating some work about bringing hemp and cannabis together, the One Plant Alliance. So
Yeah, good luck with that.
We're starting to see more marijuana operators have this conversation where hemp and cannabis and marijuana are all cannabis. Legislators here in Texas, we've been having progressive conversations. They're starting to get it. And they want to do something better. My story, when we talk about medical versus hemp versus cannabis later today, which they're all cannabis, we can dive into the details of that, what the legislators here in Texas are putting together. But it's so disheartening to see things falling apart on the federal level or these kinds of amendments being suggested. I'm hoping that it will likely not pass. I think Trump has a policy of letting states make their own decisions, and he made the rules that he made for a reason. And we'll see what happens. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, because while I am tapped in on federal policy and sharing information and providing information, I have not been leading that fight. I got my hands full down here in Texas. I'm hoping our federal could have handled that one.
Oh man, this bill ain't going nowhere. This is a big nothing burger, in my opinion. You are right, Shaun. There was a lady from Illinois that was trying to get steam behind this type of action. A couple of years ago. Now Andy Harris is trying to do it. And so I don't see it going anywhere. The hemp people that I've spoken with in relation with this out in DC, and as well as agricultural lobbyists, they say that this is a big nothing burger. This is going nowhere and doesn't stand a chance. And there's not going to be really any change from the previous farm bill to the next farm bill.
I think legislators underestimate, if they tried to do this, how many sectors they would affect, because the ag sector, that's the big conversation we're having in Texas. Well, then when are you going to test it? Mm-hmm. When does it change from hemp to marijuana if it's all cannabis? Mm-hmm. And how's that going to, even in Texas, they're having conversations about, well, let them produce hemp, maybe even let them produce full spectrum marijuana. Why not let them export it, just like other countries where mm-hmm. they decided to stop working against, like in Latin American countries where they're like, forget it. If they want it, we'll export it. So we're having some deep conversations, and I'm hopeful that the legislators are sharing the information. I will say, you guys, we got to nudge them. Like, you got to keep nudging your legislators, because you tell them a good idea, then they're like, wow, that's a great idea. You need to tell them over and over again and then get them to repeat it to someone else. Otherwise, your idea dies in their head. Mm-hmm. So, Dale, Jen, do you have anything?
Well, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube now. That's the problem they all face. And people were making a shitload of money off of hemp and these synthetic hemp products, and just say, oh, we're going to make this illegal. I think the governor of Texas realized that it ain't that simple. Sit down, Lieutenant Dan, and stay out of this for a minute. But this all got started before they really knew what cannabinoids were. And so now they're trying to catch up. And as we all know, this industry doesn't wait for politicians to catch up. This shit just goes at light speed. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it all over the country. And you really have to have hard lines, but then you've got to dedicate the troops to go out and enforce this. And that's where we have a serious problem. You mm-hmm. cannot enforce these rules unless, the vast majority, like 95+% of your population agrees this shouldn't be happening. You don't mm-hmm. have those kind of numbers anywhere. So the average citizen's like, fuck, we got bigger problems. Why are we concerned about this? Mm-hmm. They don't want money spent on enforcing this. And you can't enforce your way out of this. You've got to come up with some common sense approaches and allow people to make money. Because if you don't, the trap will make it. And right now we're seeing the trap make a shitload of money everywhere. And we just don't seem to get the attention of politicians. That if you don't allow this business to flourish, First of all, you're not getting tax money out of it. You're going to spend money in enforcement, and you really can't enforce a prohibition. A lot of people, even right now, the majority of people think cannabis should be legalized. How in the hell are you going to enforce some kind of prohibition when the majority of people go, it ain't a big problem? That's the reality today.
Mm-hmm.
And unless Donald Trump calls up, Mike Johnson and says, I want this bill to go through.
Yep.
This shit ain't going nowhere.
Exactly. Thank you, Dale.
You brought up a good word, Dale, the word synthetic. And what we're finding is the issue, like we're having issues. We need to get groups together because we're having problems with making legal definitions because synthetic, there are some good cannabinoid products that are synthesized that we wouldn't put in a synthetic, like in that category that most, if you're in a marijuana state, you're thinking synthetics are all the bad products that are really shitty, that have contaminants, etc. But what we're looking at, and we can dive into it more in the medical conversation, is that some of these cannabinoids can be synthesized and maybe should be in for pharmaceutical purposes, but some of them, a majority of the hemp industry is THCA. So it's just good old fashioned cannabis. And we need to define, and the other thing is that Spice K2, those kinds of artificial, I'm calling them artificial cannabinoids, trying to help them figure things out. These artificial cannabinoids are already illegal. So now we're making more rules for things that are already illegal, Spice K2, and applying it to cannabinoids. We're going to confuse ourselves and limit the market. We still need to be able to develop, research, work with converted cannabinoids, work on a scientific level with synthetics appropriately, safely, with consumer safety in mind, and then get people what they need, because not everybody can go full spectrum Delta 9 THC.
Do spray packs qualify as these?
I will never sign off on a spray pack. I'll never. Create good products. Don't bullshit.
I think spray packs qualify under synthetics.
No, Jason, spray packs, we're talking about synthetic cannabinoids, Jason. Spray packs are terpene infused. They're still fucking gross, but that's not a synthetic cannabinoid. That is a terpene.
Depending on what it's.
No, it's either a botanical terpene, which means it's derived from something other than besides cannabis, or it's a cannabis extracted terpene. So either way, it is an organic product, but it's not a synthetic cannabinoid. A terpene is not a cannabinoid.
Fair enough, Jenny. Fair enough. I can accept that.
That's why we need working groups. We've been telling the policymakers, don't make this decision on your own. Get a working group together and actually figure it out, because the industry itself is kind of divided on this. The industry, you have smart people and you have dumb people and you have people that just can't comprehend, and that's just kind of how that one works.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here, Jason, to help you learn every day.
That's cute. That's real cute, Jenny Beth. Real cute. Real cute. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Grievances will be heard on the 5th Thursday of every month.
Yes, and we are back, you guys.
Coming up next, the High at 9 head honcho, the biggest pain in my behind. The highest Republican in most rooms he's in, according to himself.
It's every room.
The keeper of national secrets, Jason Beck.
That's right, Jenny Beth. Don't forget it. And you guys. You guys were talking about all of that, you know what I'm saying? All those alternative cannabinoids or whatever, synthetics. But let me tell you something. Springfield, Massachusetts becomes the first city in Massachusetts to ban the sale of synthetic marijuana, you guys. That's right. A continued challenge for authorities in Massachusetts has been unregulated gas station weed, and Springfield officials said it's been a growing problem in the city for years. These products can be found at convenience stores and bodegas across the state and are similar to what you can buy at a regulated cannabis shop. The city's health department now plans to stop the sales of these over-the-counter products, and in a quote they say, "These products are being sold to mimic legitimate products," said Helen Colton Harris, Commissioner of Springfield Health and Human Services. While they look similar to snacks you can grab on the go at gas stations or convenience stores, you may not realize that those products contain artificial THC. The Springfield City Council is taking action and has passed an ordinance on June 23rd banning the sale of synthetic marijuana products. And Springfield will become the first city in the Commonwealth to ban these types of sales. The city's Department of Health and Human Services has called this a critical public health issue because it's unregulated and it's very difficult to say if our youth have had access to these products, Colton Harris said. Sounds like her first name should be Karen, but nonetheless. And licensed establishments are permitted to sell marijuana in Springfield, including retailers and medical treatment centers and product manufacturers. And the Department of Health and Human Services is now mailing letters to hundreds of convenience stores notifying business owners of the ban. Mayor Serrano is among these pushing for fines if unregulated establishments are caught selling these products. And in a quote, they say, $300 for each piece. Mayor Serrano said, "You have 10 pieces, that's $3,000. That's right, 3 G's. You have 100, that's $30,000, she says. That sounds a little egregious. I don't think they're going to be able to get that one through, but nonetheless. The city's health commissioner said these products often come in packaging that is appealing to the youth, and at times they don't even recognize what they are buying. And Springfield officials say that this is a growing concern and that they are doing their part to protect the health of the youth. All in the name of the kids, Dale, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. I mean, we were just talking about this synthetic stuff and all this stuff, all these synthetics and whatnot. And I don't think that Spice or K2 really has a place in the market. I don't think that shit should be sold. So I don't have a problem necessarily with banning that. But if they're trying to ban like Delta 8 and the other stuff too, I mean, that's just kind of stupid.
Well, good luck if they can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know that they can do it.
It has QR codes. Look, you guys. I'm sorry, my camera is like all blurry.
It's all blurry. Yeah.
Look, it's tested. It has a QR code. The flower inside, really, really nice. All THCA. This, a hash hole, also tested with a QR code. Bought at a gas station. I bought it at a gas station.
Shout out to Tested.
My stores were open on Sunday. I had a lockjaw and it was extremely painful. I couldn't open my mouth, but I could go down to the gas station and get this OTC relief, just like a bottle of Tylenol. Why are we having this ridiculous conversation? I can't do it anymore. It's real. It's legit. It's tested. It's a great product. This one by the Haze Connect. This is not sponsored. This is totally organic. Tested. You can go to the QR code. I'll post it up on my IG. I am so sick of this conversation. I think they do themselves a disservice by limiting where they can actually serve their customers. This is so dumb. The dispensary model is old. It's outdated. You guys have it in Cali, but we don't have to do it that way in all of the other states. Like we can do.
Yeah, you do. 100% you guys do. There's no dispensaries. There's no weed for nobody.
So dumb. I really hope that they handcuff y'all from this too, because you should be able, for these nutraceutical products, customers should be able to find them in their grocery stores and their gas stations. And we card for kids under 21 for alcohol. Why are we missing? It's like, oh, nobody knows what they're doing. Like, no, the convenience store owners can card them. This is ridiculous.
Sky hasn't fallen anywhere where they've legalized cannabis or cannabinoids. Life goes on. People aren't dying in the streets. The hospitals aren't full of people with their livers dying on them. But yet they keep rolling out the same old trope. Oh, the kids are marketing to kids. Okay. Well, my family had liquor stores and we kept the liquor behind the counter You wanted it, you asked, you looked at your ID, you could buy it. I mean, it's not that it can't be done. It's that we've got these competing political interests now, keep, jumping on the same hobgoblin. Oh, our kids. Your kids are smoking weed like we used to 50-something years ago when I was in high school. So just have conversations with them. Alcohol's much more dangerous. Tobacco's much more dangerous. Of course, fentanyl and meth and coke and all those things are exponentially more dangerous. But they keep trying to tap into, we're afraid of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think this is an educational problem. But we can't get the attention of the politicians to get their head out of their ass to look at the realities here. They keep falling for this bullshit. At what point are they going to pay attention to the voters out there who are like, we're not into this shit anymore. It's safer than alcohol and tobacco. Why don't we treat it more like that? Still be careful. We don't want kids to buy it. We don't want it on the shelf so they can steal it. But there's plenty of ways to be able to package this stuff and keep control of it through the, not dispensaries, but the retailers, okay, mm-hmm. without going through all the shit. We have armed guards at the fucking door. I mean, my God. The kids are not breaking into these dispensaries to steal gummies. Just stop it.
It's crazy because we have it in our convenience stores and we don't have a dispensary model. We're really highlighting to legislators that we're not facing the robberies that dispensary states are facing, where they've made themselves, not the dispensary owners, and my heart really goes out to them, but lawmakers made y'all a target by saying, right here, it's all right here. And, we've seen what happens at Catalyst when they get break-ins. We've seen other store owners have to go out of business because they couldn't sustain after numerous break-ins, and we don't have those issues here in Texas, and it isn't lawlessness. And none of those retail owners on the convenience store side have any of their product not behind glass because no one wants to get robbed by dumbass kids who are just pocketing products. Everything's behind glass. No one wants to sell to kids. If you think convenience store owners are going to jeopardize their money making with the convenience store and all of the other products that they sell by doing something dumb with cannabis, you're mistaken. Just give them regulations and rules. They'll follow them.
Well, there will be some that do, Shaun. I mean, I used to buy liquor as a kid, and I didn't have no problem finding liquor stores to do that. So there are going to be some certain unscrupulous, you know what I'm saying? So yeah.
There are going to be people who break into the gas stations to steal it.
Exactly.
So cool. You're not targeting a dispensary. Now you're just breaking into a gas station. Yep. So.
Well, they're going to be able to steal snacks and weed all at the same time. Then
don't forget the lotto ticket, Jason.
Oh man, that'd be a good one.
Pieces of shit out there who'll steal your catalytic converter.
Okay? Oh, that part, Dale.
There are just people out there who are lying, thieving sacks of shit that will hurt you. Mm-hmm. We need to get our hands on them and, do our best to rehabilitate them. That's not what we're talking about. The vast majority of human beings in this country are not looking to lie, cheat, and steal from other people. They're just not. Mm-hmm. So stop treating us all like, if this shows up in a store, kids are going to go in and just grab it and steal it. I mean, come on.
It's
crazy. That way we don't deal like you tell me, but in your experience, is there laws are not meant to be like preemptively in case you do this? It's meant to regulate what is in the here and now. Like it's not meant to micromanage the citizen as if they were a criminal. You have to
if you let people know what consequences are for certain behavior, okay, and this is part of raising children and telling them no, and beyond that, fuck no, and beyond that, I'll beat your ass, okay. Society has decided there are certain types of behavior that when we catch you, you're going to be punished for. We don't want you to do this. It doesn't help society. Mm-hmm. So laws are designed after the fact. Okay. It's up to us parents and people in the community to remind our children, hey, there are rules out there to society. If you lie, cheat, and steal from your neighbors, you're liable to go to jail. Someone's liable to kick the shit out of you, number one. But if you get caught, you're going to go to jail. Mm-hmm. That's how this is all supposed to work. And we're talking about laws that cannot be enforced. I can't emphasize that enough. These prohibitions, unless you have over 95% buy-in by your population, what we call malum prohibitum, or wrong because we say it's wrong, those laws cannot be enforced. That's what we're talking about here. Same thing happened with alcohol. You thought we would have learned our lesson. People wanted to drink, try to make it illegal. What do? You get the fucking mafia. Okay. People want to smoke weed. If you make it illegal, we get the trap. Okay. This is not rocket science. Why you can't get through to legislators. One of the reasons politicians make me nauseous to smoke a joint after fucking dealing with these people.
I mean, I don't have a problem with banning synthetic cannabinoids. I really don't. But that's a two-part thing, right? We need to have reasonable regulation around natural cannabinoids, around actual product, right? I don't think that synthetic lab-derived things are a solution for something that is already a natural plant that is so well plugged into our bodies. So, we need to be realistic that we don't exactly have any long-term data on what these things are going to do to people, and especially what they're going to do when you combust them and inhale them over a period of time, right? So, I'm not
they
mad
would
at
stop
Springfield.
the nonsense, Jenny Beth.
For that,
And
though.
the plant produces cannabinoids much more efficiently than you can do it in a laboratory. I mean, I had clients who were making this shit in labs. Okay, I got a chance to see the equipment and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, but if you throw a seed out in the field, it'll grow it much more efficiently. If we find a way to get this to people in ways that they can access it reasonably, the synthetic market's going to go away because it can't compete with the natural market.
That's a good point. And that's kind of so when we're looking at the forecast for, the next 10 to 20 years in cannabis, if we get full spectrum THC across the board, what we're suggesting is that we need to reconceptualize medical. And this is where I hesitate to create laws banning things, because we might hurt ourselves in the future. And that's why we only need to regulate as minimally as possible for the here and now. But the synthetic cannabinoids, we're looking at the medical operators, because our program here in Texas, Teacup, is trying to get rid of hemp. They're actively lobbying to kill it. And we're asking them to edify. We're asking them to evolve. We need the medical programs to evolve, because why is medical trying to be a monopolized adult use market? When we're talking about synthetic cannabinoids, and I'll bring it all full circle right now, the medical program should be looking at unique formulations, synthesized cannabinoids, converted cannabinoids, all of it to create medical products. That's why they have medical licenses, so they can participate in the U.S. healthcare and in Texas, in the Texas healthcare system, under that medical license. That would go towards the pharmaceutical direction. So we need to keep that avenue open for them, because not all pharmaceuticals are bad, and keep avenues open for over-the-counter formulaic developments for nutraceuticals. But we got to evolve this. It can't just be we're converting cannabinoids to get around the THC laws because lawmakers made arbitrary rules. They don't fully understand the plant. And we got to be careful about shooting ourselves in the foot before we realize what the future has for us, So we're talking crazy. It's a lot. I'm sorry. That was a lot. But we think medical should take over, or not take over, but they should start to lead the charge on developing these things. Stop leaning on their medical license to maintain adult use monopolies, because their market should be the medical pharmaceutical market, not adult use audiences or nutraceuticals. I've been talking about this for a couple of days, y'all. I'm sorry.
I can tell. Well, we're going to keep this train rolling. I mean, unless, Jenny, you have any other things you want to say on this? These synthetics?
That's what I need to say.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet and nasty, and he's honest, and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and everyone else's opinion for that matter. And he will show you how to piss up a rope by defying gravity. That's right, he is your favorite Tio Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. My story this morning is about the Fourth Amendment. It comes out of Marijuana Moment from yesterday, and the headline is Oregon Police Improperly Used Aerial Camera to Bust Marijuana Grow, a state appeals court says. Now, years ago, we had the first case that I recall where they were flying over houses with infrared and they were looking for signatures of heat that might indicate there's a grow going on inside there. And the court said, no. If you can see it from a lawful vantage point, plain view see it from a lawful vantage point, it can be part of the basis for a search warrant. Okay? But if you can't see it from a lawful vantage point without enhancing view, okay, that violates the Fourth Amendment. Now, the Fourth Amendment requires a warrant with an oath or affidavit which particularly describes the place to be searched or the things or the person to be seized. That's what this is all about. And in this case, a plane was flying at 5,000 feet with infrared radar. Okay? This is something that has become very popular, especially like down in Texas right now, where we've got people missing from these floods. And if you fly over and see an infrared signature, it's an animal of some kind, and you want to run down there and check and see. We love this stuff. We need it. Okay? But if you're just flying around, generally looking around with infrared, your eyes cannot see a heat signature on a house or a building. Okay? So if you use infrared, you're enhancing your vision. That's acceptable if you have a warrant, but that's not acceptable to get the warrant. Okay? That's the problem we have here. Because this, and I tried multiple times to pronounce this person's name. I'm just going to fuck it up. So I'm going to let you read it. If you want to see what this person's name is, fine. It's a female. And she was apparently running an indoor marijuana grow, significant one. Somebody flies over, gets a signature. They try to pick up evidence. You know, they take this to court. I mean, they eventually get a warrant. They go in and find it. And part of the warrant was this illegal flyover and the use of infrared. And at the trial level, court allowed it to come in. Of course, there was a conviction. I think she copped a plea, but she agreed to take some probation and the biggest charge would go away, but she reserved her rights to appeal. Not always common, but she wanted to reserve her rights to appeal because apparently groups that were into internet and this privacy issues from these electronic surveillances wanted to get in the middle of this. And so they did. So a 3-judge panel took a look at this, and the quote that they gave, and let me pull it up so I can see it here. We have never upheld as constitutionally permissible an officer's technologically enhanced surveillance to see what was otherwise indiscernible. We declined to do so here. So if you could fly over a property and in plain view see plants, you got a whole different scenario here. This is why marijuana went indoors years ago, because they could fly over and see it. You'd have them at your property. If it's inside a building, it's much more difficult to get the probable cause to get a warrant to go in and search. So what the courts have once again done is told the cops that if you're looking for criminal behavior, okay, these enhanced technologies are not going to be equivalent plain view from a lawful vantage point. You can go as low as 500 feet in the airspace and still be at a lawful vantage point for most things. But if you use enhanced technologies to be able to see what your eyes could not technically see, you've got to go get a warrant first to do that, which means you've got to do some groundwork to go see if there's indicia of illegal activity, especially cannabis production, things like that. Then get your warrant. And when the warrant says you can use these technologies, boom, the people who get caught are screwed. There's just no place they can go. But if you get the cart before the horse, okay, and this is why we have, indoor cannabis today, which is such a favorite because you can't detect it from the outside. So I'm going to throw this back at you for your comments, but it's good to see the court step in. Can look through walls and see you doing things that no person could actually see you doing. Go back to you. What do you guys think?
So this is go ahead, Shaun. Go ahead.
Oh, Okay, I was gonna let you run, Jason.
All right, I was gonna say I think this is a solid win for people, because there's always been that big government overreach of them just basically being able to do flyovers, and you know, it could be very possible that you have a whole field of Japanese maple leaf plants. And you know what I mean, and they could be misidentifying them, and so, you know, shout out to all the Japanese maple leaf growers out there.
Yeah, also, we got to hold these rules, because Dale's right. Like, the technology to track your motion through your Wi-Fi, it exists. It has existed. That's just, the Patriot Act took off a whole bunch of, it opened a lot of doors, friends. And so we need to make sure that if all of those doors are open, which it's too late, or hopefully we can backtrack on that, but I don't think we will. If all those doors are open, we need to actually have the protective, like, stop gates for the law. And I get why she took the plea deal, so that way she wouldn't have to be, she could actually work on her case probably, because otherwise you're just locked up. And unless you have a real good lawyer and a whole lot of money, you're kind of fucked. But take the plea, but keep the opportunity to appeal makes a ton of sense, especially if they're going to uphold that they didn't have a warrant. And it's just giving, like, immediately when you started reading, I was like hearing Jesse Pinkman in my head, like, this is my domicile, you know? So just like, you gotta, Hank, you gotta get a warrant. It's just a matter of balance between cops and you know, and the people and keeping public safety. Is we have certain protections because we can't have cops out there just arresting people on a hunch. Otherwise, we have issues with corruption. Not that we don't already, but there's reasons why we have these little checks and balances.
Well, you know, we did get 2 super chats, and so we do want to thank everyone for those so much. We got one from the C Word who says, "What if price were a factor of how tested it was?" Well, so well-tested weed for those who want it, and barely tested weed for a discount. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that option, Dale. I'm really not mad. I think that could be interesting. And we also got a super chat in from Miss Anna Lewis, the CEO of Catalyst, who says, "We've seen what happens after Catalyst gets broken into. We fix it. We fix it in an hour, and the thieves get nothing, and we're back in business." Well, shout out
That part.
Yeah, that part. Talk about good security, good build outs, and all of that. You know what I mean? And keep these thieves always just want to break shit and damage stuff. And you know what I'm saying? I hate people like that.
On the testing thing, Riley, you know, Dr. Riley Kirk, y'all might know her, Cannabichem. We talked about an idea about having a grade level where you can grade the weed, and then it's like wine, you know, or not wine, but something you have, like, this is a grade 1. It's free of pesticides and it's safe and there's no mold, but everything else, we're not testing that. And then a grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, until you have your level 5 top shelf, you know, where you get your full QR code COA with the 5-panel test and your terps, and you actually know what you're consuming. And it's a measure, it could be a measurement of quality as well, not just testing, because if we have a measure of quality, now we can talk about having different price buckets for different products, and consumers actually being able to tell what those are ahead of time without having to have smoked everybody's weed and know who's a good brand and who sucks.
Well, they don't test alcohol. I mean, if you go buy wine, okay, wine is grown with fertilizers, they use pesticides and herbicides and all sorts of shit in these fields, okay? No one's testing wine. What they test for is, what does it taste like? You know, is it a box wine, or is it a $250 bottle of some Bordeaux or something like that? But you're not having anybody say, "Oh, we need to have our wine tested for heavy metals and for pesticides and stuff." So a lot of this is fear tactics.
It is.
Now,
it's all bullshit propaganda.
The vitamin E acetate problem we had with these knuckleheads thickening up vape carts and killing people. Okay, that's a whole different problem here. If you're selling flour, okay, and we never used to test it. You look at it, does it look moldy? If it doesn't look moldy, you can roll it up and smoke it, okay? That doesn't mean it's totally safe, but I think we're off on some tangents here about what's in this plan. If you run it through processing and use chemicals in there, I can see a reason to be looking for that stuff, heavy metals and things like that. But I like to see it across the board on all of these products, okay? Otherwise, what are we talking about? You think that cannabis is the only product that contains heavy metals or pesticides or herbicides or aspergillus or any other type of biologicals? Hell no. No one's testing this stuff. It's one of the reasons Bobby Kennedy's is getting so much attention. Like, do you have any idea how unsafe your food supply is? Then they take this and, we can't sell this unless it runs through, a battery of 50 tests. Okay. Why? Are people dying from smoking this shit? No. I just think it's hysteria, and it still buys into this. We are the redheaded stepchildren dressed up like the Hamburglar. They're looking at us like, we can't trust you guys. You're going to do bad things. But the guy selling wine, he's your uncle. He's fine. There's no problem there. And that it is more dangerous than weed. So it irritates the shit out of me. We can't get past these narratives. Most people don't buy them, but there's enough people out there that if you say this, their butt puckers up. We're going to have to go do more testing and be careful about this stuff. Why? Yeah, somebody dying from this shit?
Exactly. No one's dying from this shit. Like it's all a bunch of malarkey. And there was even a gaslighting story that was out on Monday that was talking about New York and how hospital visits are up like hundreds of X's because of people overdosing on cannabis and and this and that. And then it was funny too because I saw another article too that didn't end up making the cut, but I thought it was like super interesting. Mainly the reason it didn't make the cut because it was an opinion piece, but it was an opinion by a doctor, and he was saying how CUD, cannabis use disorder, is way over diagnosed. He said they just use that as a base. If you experience any of these symptoms, they're diagnosing you with CUD off the top, just as long as you say then with no other thoughts or medical evaluations in consideration of. So I thought that was super interesting because I totally believe that it's getting blown way out of proportion of what it is in the first place.
Well, we had the problem in California where they'd let kids who got caught with weed go to a psychiatrist, be diagnosed with a CUD, and then they would give them some sort of lighter treatment. And I had a few pissing matches with these psychiatrists. It's like, you have a financial interest in making this diagnosis. You are not neutral, okay? This is a conflict of interest. Just because somebody smokes more weed than you think they should, now they're all of a sudden the equivalent of a fucking meth addict.
Yeah, exactly.
Really stop.
And then sometimes it's just their default check. They're like, they didn't want to tell me that they were actually doing bumps of coke and a whole bunch of ketamine or something else. They told me they were smoking weed. Check. In the medical system, we've got a lot of room for improvement, not just as far as cannabis goes, but just overall, because a lot of our medical health care is, my stepmom was an ER doc. So she would come in with stories. When you're in the ER, you have to be immediately responsive. But when we're talking about general health care and routine health care, check the box, and even often in the ER, if the patient is going to tell you the truth, you have no choice but to go with what you got. And sometimes all they'll say is, I smoked weed. And what's really going on is they also were doing 8 balls in the back or something.
Exactly. They don't want to talk. They don't want to disclose that.
No, because that could get them in some serious trouble, and they're hoping they won't get in trouble, at least with weed, although they're still taking a gamble on that one because they might still be. Depending on.
Jenny Beth, you have any final thoughts on this, Jenny Beth? All right, fair enough. We're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back. Yep, there we go. And we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And we do want to send out our thoughts and prayers for all of the victims of the Texas flooding incident and whatnot. And we do want to let you know that in the description of this video, there is a link to Aim High Hemp Distribution. They are doing a drive of supplies, and so please reach out to them if you would like to donate cash, blankets, water, whatever, anything that these people may need to help them get through this time. And also make sure you check out all the sponsors in our sponsors section of the link in this video, and make sure you use the link to order yourself a case of Liberal Tears. It's the perfect energy beverage, 150 milligrams of caffeine in every can and 0 grams of sugar, and you're helping some patriots do the right thing.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and we are back, and we're going to roll right into Miss Shaun Salvaje. She's a mom, she's a mediator, and she is a veteran who served our country proud. That's right, it is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
Aw, thank you, Jason. That was sweet.
Yes.
Yes. My story is for the U.S. from, I believe, Australia. A lesson from down under. The AH, and this comes from ABC Net. I checked because I wasn't totally familiar with Australian media. This is the Australian broadcast channel. So it's a trusted source.
I don't know.
According to Google. So they're supposed to be neutral. We'll see. But I appreciate this little article they give us. So the AHPRA takes action against more than 50 practitioners in medical cannabis crackdown. This is from Elise Worthington. Long story short, the AHPRA has, I love these articles that like give you a little summary up front. The AHPRA has taken action against 57 medical practitioners, pharmacists, and nurses over medical cannabis prescribing practices. New guidelines have been issued after a surge in prescriptions that the regulator said was leading to significant patient harm. We're going to have a few mixed up conversations here because I think we're going to talk about that cannabis use disorder shit and cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, which it happens, but it can be, you can self-modulate. So AHPRA, the chief executive, Justin, oh goodness, guys, these names are going to be a little tough. Unsteiner said the regulator was investigating 60 practitioners. So the health practitioner watchdog has put medical cannabis prescribers on notice, saying poor prescribing practices and surging consumer demand are leading to significant patient harm. The AHPRA today released new guidelines urging prescribers to put patient well-being above profits as medicinal cannabis prescriptions rise rapidly due to telehealth companies providing a one-stop shop for quick access to medicinal cannabis. I feel like, Callie, you will remember this because everybody's kind of, when you guys had the pay-for-play medical cards, that's what we all got now is medical cannabis. The regulator said some businesses were using aggressive and sometimes misleading advertising that targets vulnerable people and online questionnaires that coach patients to say the right thing to justify prescribing. We'll talk about it. The ABC can reveal AHPRA has now taken action against 57 medical practitioners, pharmacists, and nurses over medicinal cannabis prescribing practices. We're currently investigating a further 60 right now as we speak. And as for those that choose not to meet our requirements, we will be knocking on their door in the near future. Ooh, he's warning you. The crackdown comes after a series of ABC investigations. Damn it, ABC revealed ABC was involved in this investigation. So we might be careful. But much like, Channel 7 investigates. So ABC investigations revealed patients with a history of psychosis had been hospitalized after being prescribed medicinal cannabis, and one patient had died following inappropriate prescribing. Let's dig deeper. The investigations also revealed concerns from doctors who said they were being treated like drug dealers and pressured to write medicinal cannabis scripts by the telehealth companies. Oh no. Tying healthcare to profit? What could go wrong? While AHPRA said the majority of practitioners do the right thing, the agency uncovered half a dozen who issued more than 10,000 prescriptions in a 6-month period, including one who issued over 17,000, or one every 4 minutes in a working day. Okay, let's push pause, because before we get our panties twisted, we want to protect our medical prescribers and doctors and the people who are really doing the work for cannabis. But at this rate, this is just another pay-for-play system. Like, they're getting their medical card or their prescription, or just like in Texas with the teacup program, you can pay $150 to be registered with DPS as a patient and be in the teacup program, but have access to no plant. So, and they do market like crazy. I've seen it. I signed up for a few of those just to see what would happen. So I kind of get ABC investigates on that aspect. But Mr. Unsteiner said the regulator held serious concerns for patient safety due to excessive and inappropriate prescribing. We've seen patients present to emergency departments with medicinal cannabis-induced psychosis, and this can happen particularly when there are patients that have pre-existing mental health conditions or substance abuse or other issues like that. So there's where your big stop sign is yes, they fucked up. Medical prescribers need to be looking at mental health history, because there are contraindications, just like with anything else. Like, if you're allergic to peanuts, you shouldn't get no peanuts for you. Same with cannabis. If your body doesn't process it properly, and you can evaluate that medically. We know that there is some correlation with certain mental health issues, specifically schizophrenia, that we want to be careful with, and that people who have any genetic predispositions to that should probably stay away from consumption. And we know that there are other contraindications, just like with any other pharmaceutical where we have contraindications. There's always going to be a small percentage of the population that has an adverse effect, and we need to be mindful of that. This is medical cannabis. This is not adult use. Go choose and exercise your right and freedom of choice. These are medical providers who have, again, what I've described as often monopolies, and they are turning and burning through patients. Like, we have to stop this. We have to get medical cannabis to step up a bit, especially because they hold such a unique market share if they really look at the opportunity for themselves, especially as it relates to the healthcare industry. Like, why would you jeopardize what you could have? Ugh, it's short-sighted. So they're seeing patients that are arriving at the ER, and we discussed how that could be, docs just checking a box, but also there are real issues when you have a contraindication, you consume cannabis. And they want to investigate this and look into it. So according to Therapeutic Goods Administration, the Therapeutic Goods Administration data, the main conditions medicinal cannabis are being prescribed for include insomnia, chronic pain, and anxiety. The guidelines state medicinal cannabis should not be prescribed as a first-line treatment and should only be used when there is evidence-supported clinical indication and when other treatments have not worked. So if you're turning and burning through patients at 1 every 4 minutes, you're not going to get their full medical history. It's really bad when we have bad actors who just give into the profits. I'll let you guys read through the story. And they do bring up opioids. They were like, we don't do this with opioids. Why are we doing it with cannabis? So we point the finger at them, we're getting the finger right back. When we have bad actors or, ill-intended actors, and maybe these guys had really good intentions, and maybe there are good people who got caught up in the bust. I am 100% sure that has happened. But when you have a model, and this is why a lot of Texans won't return to teacup, and why we have to challenge teacup to think about, because Texas doesn't have a well-established medical program. We have one operator really who's functional, and we're only going to give out those new 9 licenses based on the bills that were passed during the regular legislative session. We need those operators who get those licenses to look at Texas as the new place, the new fertile soil for a new way of looking at medical cannabis, and starting that offshoot into pharmaceutical science research and development, so they can partner with universities like Baylor, which is top in the country for medical, or UT, to do that kind of research and development, instead of having medical operators continue to corner the market and corner patients into paying for these cards or recommendations or whatever bullshit they're coming up with. It's a fee. It's just a tax to be in the program, essentially, and then to have no actual physician relationship or supervision. We got to do better on the medical side. With that said, that is a medical problem. When it comes to hemp and cannabis on the adult use choice side, you get a choice. And this is why we need to have these conversations. Thank you, Australia, a lesson far across the pond on the other side of the world that we can all still learn from. We need to do better. We need to stop thinking about cannabis as we did 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. We have to modernize and evolve this industry. I'm really interested to hear your guys' opinions, because when it comes to medical hemp and cannabis, we have a lot of issues, but I think if we started reframing and thinking about the future and holding ourselves to better standards, we could see a lot of growth and progress. Back to you.
Oh, man.
Well, I dealt with this for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Molly and I were doing recommendations back in 1999. And by 2001, we had 5,000 that we had done. Okay? We set our sights at around 100 a week, which meant that you got time with me where I explained the laws. You got what we call a good faith prior physical exam. Someone actually did a physical exam on you. We didn't diagnose. You had to bring in records which documented from a neutral physician what your qualifying conditions were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I met with the head of the medical board to discuss this. Okay. Because under California's Medical Practices Act, you have to have a good faith prior exam and medical indication to prescribe. What I pointed out is that you can't prescribe marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There is no model by which you can write a prescription for marijuana. So we truncated some of this. And for us to stay out of problems with the state, we implemented this program where there was actually a physical exam, review of records. We had, CDs we gave to them. This is the law. Follow the law. We did everything we could. So that's why the feds came after us. But when you go across the country, United States, you can't prescribe cannabis. So it gives some of these, I call them unscrupulous practitioners. Let's just be clear. If you're doing a 4-minute medical exam, you're playing games. You're just taking people's money because they want the ticket to get in the show. And I think that's being irresponsible. But what we also found is that not everybody really understands their family history or their potential to have a psychotic disorder, a dissociative disorder like schizophrenia. Molly got into a problem with the medical board because she gave someone a recommendation who was taking antipsychotic drugs and said, you do not stop these drugs unless you go talk to your psychiatrist. Well, of course, he stopped and started having problems, and the psychiatrist reported it was a whole fucking mess we had to go through. And no one could explain the connection between smoking weed and schizophrenia. There's a correlation there, and it gets a lot of people upset. But it's one of the reasons why we don't like young people, under the age of, say, 21, to be smoking weed with a doctor's permission unless you have a certain category of problems. We're pretty sure, based on history, cannabis is not going to exacerbate. The mental illness part of this, and especially these dissociative disorders, it's a tough one to deal with. But what you're talking about, Shaun, is a mill. These are mills.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And Todd McMaria, I love the guy, but he pushed the envelope. would like wave his hand and give everybody in the room recommendations like, dude, I think that's going to get you in trouble doing things like that. And of course he did, got in some trouble, but we need to get beyond thinking of this like a prescription. Okay. And they need to develop better guidelines for physicians and teach them this stuff and have standards. They just don't have them right now. It's like, oh, you're writing one every 4 minutes. Well, that can't be right. So now we're coming after the fact to figure this out instead of thinking about putting together some practical rules to do this so that you can defend yourself as a physician and the patient's going to get at least a reasonable exam and reasonable discussions about how to use it and how not to use it, things like that. We just don't have them. This is just a ticket to go buy weed, and people are treating it like that.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
There are epigenetic tests. So I've worked with an organization that does provide epigenetic paneling for you to see if genetically cannabis is a no-go for you. The deal is it's our endocannabinoid system, right? So like any other organic system in our body, some of us, naturally produce more cholesterol. Some of us don't. Some of us produce more cortisol. Some of us don't. And some of us naturally have more cannabinoids, and we don't need more. You don't need it. And I think typically people who see adverse effects are the ones who don't need cannabinoids. So their body rejects it. And we have to, it's time to evolve how we're looking at medical science. We can use cannabis, like this is why the medical operators really need to step it up and evolve already and stop the adult use monopoly games, because there's a much bigger opportunity. Like if I just want to talk their language and if it's about money,
it's always about money, Shaun. That's the only thing that moves anything.
Way bigger opportunity in pharmaceutical science, research, development, academia.
Oh, now you sound like you're working for the pharmaceutical industry now.
I don't work for them. I don't take pharmaceuticals. You have a hard time getting me to the VA.
Yeah.
But I'm from a business perspective, if I was going to be very frank with them as a consultant, they need to evolve, because the adult use monopoly, this whole thing is going to crumble. And that's why they're seeing themselves falling to pieces because of hemp and legacy operators.
I totally disagree with this analysis.
I think medical operators need to level up and start shooting aim higher. And they need to stop playing around like they're an adult use monopolized operator. It's not.
I mean, I think they just need to start by actually offering products that people want. I think that'd be the first start, by being able to offer whole flower products and whatnot, and that would be the first start. But back to this story, back to this whole Australianness. With these paper mills, Dale, that did create a big problem. I mean, and it created a very bad stigma overall for the whole cannabis industry overall. If you remember, there were the people that were out in Venice back in the day. They're like, hey, yeah, you just come upstairs and see our doctor, da 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 da. And you know what I'm saying? And they were writing it for tourists, writing it for everybody. There was no designation. They were saying, hey, if you're staying here in California and you're here, then you're a California resident, which we all know that's not really the case on how it works. And they were just making a whole mockery of it. And so I'm glad to see that there's some kind of enforcement arm going down on doctors, so then that way we're not having similar situations, even like the paper mill pill clinics that were operating in Florida, like that needed to have the hammer come down on them too. There are doctors that will abuse the system in that, right, and to me they get what's coming to them.
I've represented enough physicians in my career to know that getting a medical license does not make you a decent human being.
Exactly.
Right.
They will take advantage of this stuff. And it's like you said, the pill mills in Florida, and even buying the story about how OxyContin is not as addicting as it's like, just fucking shut up. No, you're just a criminal looking for ways to make money, and you got a medical license. And I don't have a lot of sympathy for people like that. I've had to defend them before, but it's like defending a criminal. It's like, yeah, we'll try to get you off, but you're a fucking scumbag.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna have a drink with you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just find it funny that they reference to opioids and they're like, we don't do this with opioids. Yes, you do. All the Florida opioid pill mills have all turned into writing recommendations for cannabis.
Exactly.
They absolutely do. And so this issue right now is a direct representation of what has been wrong with the medical system and cannabis the entire fucking time. Doctors have been burning and turning. and going online, and here, you fill out your thing online, we guarantee you'll have your prescription in 15 minutes or less or your money back.
Yep.
Like, that's not how we prescribe things. And now we're looking at people who already have these issues, blaming them, and they're trying to say cannabis is a causation, not a correlation.
Exactly.
So, this is a problem. If you're not willing to go ahead and do actual patient care, please don't write recommendations. It's not going to happen, but okay. So this is something, to me, this is not news. This is not new. This has been going on and been going on and been going on. The same investigative report was done in Florida over pill mills. And I bet you some of the same doctors' names are on the list as they were for this one. So I don't know.
You think some of those doctors just moved out to Australia?
They're everywhere.
They are everywhere. They are everywhere. That's fair enough. And before we go into our final commercial, we did get another super chat, and thank you so much, the C Word, who says SF Hash Week, you guys. And so thank you, the C Word, and shout out to everyone that's going to be attending SF Hash Week up there in the Bay Area.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBD?
And in a GMP certified facility, so you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Oh, yes, and we are back. And I have our two final stories for you guys today. And so one of them is some sad news, Jenny, and the other one is some happy news.
Well, I'm going to have to watch in the comments, Jason.
All right, Jenny Beth. Make sure.
It better be happy, or I'm going to be down there like a thumb thug.
The last story is very happy. I mean, Shaun's mind is going to be blown by the final story, but unfortunately, some people's lives got blown out by this second story, you guys, because cannabis giant TerrAscend is exiting Michigan market, and they're closing 20 stores and cutting 230 jobs, you guys. That's right, more than 230 employees of the publicly traded cannabis company TerrAscend Corp in Michigan will lose their jobs as the company, which owns brands such as Gage Cannabis and Cookies, pulls out of the Michigan market, according to a WARN Act notice filed with the state. The Toronto-based company said in a news release that it will sell or divest all of its Michigan assets, including 4 cultivation and processing facilities, 20 retail stores, and real estate as an exit. And real estate, an exit that is expected to be completed in the second half of the year. In Metro Detroit, Gage dispensaries in Detroit and Ferndale will close, along with a Cookies dispensary in Detroit and cultivation facilities in Warren and Harrison Township. In the news release, Jason Wild, executive chairman of TerrAscend, acknowledged the changes Michigan's cannabis market faces, such as an oversupply of marijuana in the market, causing prices to fall and making it difficult for companies to make a profit. In a quote, Michigan is an extremely difficult market, and we have come to the realization that our resources can be better utilized in our other markets, he said. The company joins other multi-state operators who have either reduced or eliminated their operations in Michigan. PharmaCann, for example, closed its cultivation facility in Warren early this year, resulting in about 200 employees losing their jobs. And when TerrAscend entered the Michigan market in 2022 with the $545 million acquisition of Gage Growth Group Corp., the state's market was rapidly expanding, and in recent years, Michigan's adult use marijuana market has overtaken California as the largest cannabis market in the United States, according to some metrics that track sales by volume. No, that's propaganda, but whatever. An upcoming June monthly report from Michigan's Cannabis Regulatory Agency will likely show that the total dollar amount of adult use marijuana sales dropped slightly in the first half of 2025 compared with the first half of the last year, which would mark the first time the industry has shown signs of contractions since sales of adult use cannabis started back in December of 2019. Michigan's cannabis industry has sold $1.3 billion in adult use products through May of this year, a 2.6% decline compared with the same period last year, according to a Detroit Free Press analysis of the CRA's monthly sales reports. TerrAscend will continue to operate dispensaries and cultivation and processing facilities across 5 states: New Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and California, and in Toronto. Its Michigan exit will reduce its overall workforce by about 21%, according to the company. Wow, man, 21%, Dale. That's a pretty big number. That's a little more than a fifth of the whole overall company. What do y'all got to say about this?
I think we're seeing contractions in every place where you have what we call a mature market, if that really is a realistic term, because they make it just way too onerous, and it's too easy to go get up in the trap.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a problem. The population of Michigan's 10 million. There's more people in the general Los Angeles area than the entire state, but yet we're still seeing some of the same outcomes we are. There may be different reasons for it, but California is contracted to a point where something's got to be done. And at some point, if this is all fully legal and you can get weed any place you can get alcohol, you cannot support the prices that are there right now. It's not going to work. And if there's not the money that people want, they tend to get out of the business. And if you get it to the point where the trap really can't exist anymore, at some point, indoor grow is going to be like, 15-year aged single malt scotch. And then the cheap stuff will be what's grown outdoors. And, it's just very cheap. That's the economics of this. And the people in the industry thought the economics were going to be better than they were. The government thought they were going to be better because they wanted all this tax money. The reality is everybody's got their head up their ass about this because the consumers are telling you what they want. They're not buying from these legal markets anymore. I don't think people in Michigan have stopped smoking weed to the same level they did before.
Nope.
They're just not going to these dispensaries to get it.
That's
a real problem for the industry.
Dale, where else we know that they're not going to get it is Ohio.
Yeah, they haven't quite figured that shit out yet.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're on mute, Shaun. Oh, there you go.
A bit ago, or maybe like 2 years ago, they had legislation that killed their caregiver program. I might be mixing it up, but I'd be curious about their tax rate. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Well, it's controlled by Democrats, so their taxes are high.
So that's the first thing, because we were evaluating the North Carolina bill, and at 30%, while they're proposing it's very progressive to fully legalize, at 30%, we're telling Texas, don't do it. It'll kill everything. You'll look just like Cali. No offense, y'all. But then the other question for me is, you have to ask, did they have any? I don't know their financials off the top of my head, and I haven't looked into it. I'm busy in the Lone Star State, minding my own business. But if they had any debt coming up, it could just be standard. It could just be this is the least productive space for us. We have debt.
I don't know.
Structuring. I don't know.
It says they're still. It says they didn't exit California, but they exited Michigan. I find that very, very interesting and very telling of it must be a big shitstorm going on up in Michigan, and I'm sure that it's probably only going to get worse up there for the operators if this big MSO is pulling out of Michigan, but is still leaving its assets in California operational. I think that's very telling.
They could be. I don't know. Never mind.
I mean, they had 20 stores.
Such a shit show right now. I mean, right now they're battling over, can we get it down from 19.5%, whatever it is, back down to 15. 15 wasn't sustainable. And you got all these interest groups in the legislature, got the ear of the legislators that, we got to keep, we can't lose money here. The voters want all this stuff. No, the industry's dying here in California. I mean, the trap's not. The legal industry is very difficult here in California. And it's just infuriating me that, you can't get the attention to get from 19 to 15 when the real story is it should be down about 1 to 3% excise tax and get rid of all these local rules and regulations, streamline this. And that's what, if I get a chance to talk to them, that's what I'm going to scream it at them. Fucks, you understand what you're doing?
We tell them, you can tell them, but I think typically you'll see the states like a smart, not smart, but they're going to want what they're going to want. So we got to get them down, like North Carolina at 30. I've been trying to 0% on medical to encourage them to do what I just talked about a little bit ago. And because patients shouldn't pay taxes, and medical should be looking at cannabinoids like Delta 8 and how they can further synthesize those so that people who have adverse reactions to Delta 9 have an option, a medically prescribed one that can be prescribed, because it folds into the industry of healthcare. And then what we can do for hemp cannabis, adult use cannabis, either in the nutraceutical or vice market, is like a 2 to 3. But we know that the locals, the counties and municipalities are going to want theirs. So I tell them to always anticipate for the 3 to 5 on the local, because it could do things like, and this is a hard conversation to have in Texas right now, it could do things like fund the local warning flash flood system that we should have approved in the legislature in 2017. But we were too busy arguing about other things like banning THC. Also, again, this year, another House bill that didn't pass. It could pay for things like that, so we don't have to have these debates between the state. So I understand a certain percentage, but we always, once they go past 10%, we tell them they're likely to kill their legal market, and it's better to get 5% of multi-billions than nothing.
Exactly.
Of a market that's
I agree with that part. Dale, I'm a little confused on this, because it says that they got this information from a WARN Act notice. Now I just had to Google what that was, and it says that it's a worker adjustment and retaining notification known as the WARN Act that helps ensure advance notice in cases of qualified plant closings and mass layoffs. And this it's a federal thing. The U.S. Department of Labor has compliance assistance materials to help workers and employees understand their rights and responsibilities under provisions of a WARN Act. Now I'm confused, because cannabis companies aren't eligible for the earned tax credits, right? Why is this company filing a WARN Act in regards with their employees if they're closing down?
Well, because they're required, if you have employees, to give these notices. And the problem is that there's so much legal and illegal that's all amalgamated together. How do you separate it out?
Yeah,
it's illegal under federal law to even possess marijuana.
Exactly.
But yet they're doing it. And if you have employees, you have federal OSHA. I mean, you have state OSHA.
Yeah.
You have a lot of other rules that apply. And it's one of those. And you can't make sense out of it, because it doesn't make sense. We have these artificial definitions. We have pissing matches over synthetic cannabinoids and THCA and all this other stuff. And none of it makes any sense to the average consumer. And you've got layers of laws that stopped making sense decades ago. And that is one of the problems that government has been convinced to believe that it can fix every fucking problem that a human being can identify. Oh, the government will fix it. No, it can't.
Exactly.
You identify the big ones. Like if you're in a flood zone and a flood's coming and the kid next door can't scream yell enough, maybe you put up a fucking horn, and let people, if you hear this, run.
Buy them a megaphone,
I don't
right?
know why that's such a difficult concept. Same thing in New Mexico. You live in a flood zone. Shit, warn people. Seems important to me, and this other shit seems unimportant, but yet there's so much energy put into it. It's like you're wasting your time. Focus on what government should be doing, protecting people, and the rest of this, let's figure out, can we afford to do it? And if not, then I don't know what to tell people. We're so goddamn far in debt right now by trying to fix everybody's problems that we're just creating more problems for people.
Fair enough.
a valid point, especially because when we're looking at it, like in Texas and in this specific instance, we have a surplus. So then it can't even be about the money because we have the fucking money. I'm sorry, I got a little heated there. Not very PR of me, but we have the money. We have the money. It's really about all the pissing contests we've been having at the legislature where we've failed continuously to serve the people of Texas. And that gets me a little fired up as a veteran. Just saying. We could have, little girls, if at 2 a.m. you would have had an alarm system like we do for tornadoes and sirens going off at 2 a.m., they would have had 5 hours to get the hell out of there.
Well, will they actually have an after action report done here at meetings? Because there's so many people that have both feet on their dick right now, because you've got all these discussions about doing it. Nobody wanted to do it and spend the money. And now you've got, what, a couple hundred people dead. It's like it would have been very cheap to put these things up. Why are we not looking at the safety, health, safety, and welfare of our citizens as our primary focus? Stop trying to fix every other problem in the world. We've got to get back to what is the purpose of government to protect the citizens. Stop thinking that we can just, genetically engineer everybody's mind about what we can fix. No, we can't. We haven't been able to fix them in the 5,000 years of recorded history. We're not fixing them today. Let's focus on what we can actually get done and what we can actually afford to do.
Yep. Fair enough, Dale. And on that, we do want to, again, send our love and prayers out to all the victims of the floods in Texas, and remind everybody to go into the description of this video. There is a link to Aim High Hemp Distribution, and they are doing a supply drive, blankets, water, all the types of things people need, money, whatever. Please reach out to them via their website if you are interested in helping contribute to any of the victims out there. We know that is actually going to get to victims, and 100% of it is going to help to benefit those people that are in need of it. And on that, I got my final story for you guys. I promised a good story at the end. Are you guys ready? And it's going to blow Shaun's mind.
Let me share a positive thing. I did notice, though, that there are a lot of local brands. Just look up, guys. A lot of local brands are doing 7-10 sales. All proceeds go to disaster relief efforts. So just find your brands who are participating in that and go buy from them tomorrow to celebrate.
All right. Well, now. So, Shaun, are you ready for this? Are you ready to have your mind explode?
I'm buckled up. I'm sitting back.
All right. And full disclosure, this story is about a friend of mine. I have been a friend of this gentleman for a number of years. I helped shape a lot of his policy and thought on this, and we've hung out many a days and many a nights out in D.C. And a senior advisor to President Donald J. Trump, Never Surrender PAC, says, in a quote, "It's illogical that cannabis is classified as a more dangerous than fentanyl." That's right, you guys. My buddy Alex Bruskowitz, a senior advisor to President Trump's Never Surrender PAC, says it makes no sense that marijuana is federally classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. In a post on X, Bruskowitz called the classification illogical, noting that President Trump has expressed support for rescheduling marijuana to Schedule 3, and that move would maintain marijuana's federal illegality, but open the door to expanded medical research. Bruskowitz also pointed out that nearly 70% of Republican voters backed Trump's position on that. And in a quote, during the campaign, President Trump expressed support for rescheduling cannabis to Schedule 3, maintaining its illegal status, but clearing the path for a more robust medical research in our country, Bruskowitz wrote. No brainer. Under current federal law, marijuana remains a Schedule I drug considered more dangerous and addictive than Schedule II substances like fentanyl and cocaine, and the Biden administration is currently reviewing a recommendation by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to move marijuana to Schedule III. You mean they were? That's a missed typo right there in that article. But nonetheless, Bruskowitz, who is 27, is a rising conservative strategist and co-founder of the political firm X Strategies. And shout out to my other buddy with them, Derek. He was recently elevated to a senior advisory role in Trump's reelection effort, overseeing digital messaging and outreach, and Trump has publicly praised Bruskowitz and his media firm, which has worked with dozens of Republican candidates and organizations. And President Trump, who previously signaled openness to reforming federal marijuana laws during his 2020 campaign, has yet to take an official position on the current rescheduling proposal. And however, as Bruskowitz's statement suggests, marijuana policy could become a unifying issue among Republican voters heading into November. And Trump's former Attorney General Andy Barr also stated in 2020 that the federal-state conflict over marijuana laws was unsustainable and should be resolved through congressional action, you guys. Well, look at that. Look at that. Look at that, Shaun. I told you there's going to be some hope at the end of the tunnel with all of this for cannabis. I think you're on mute. No, I'm not for rescheduling. I'm gonna have to call Alex and tell him, you know, I think Alex is just voicing the support for rescheduling because that's been a kind of a popular thing, and that can get us there if you understand how politics works and messaging in generalities and whatnot. But descheduling is the only answer, and when I talk to him, I'm going to make sure that he knows that that's the only solution.
Talk and tell him about how the medical operators need to do medical things. That'll fold in real nicely with the healthcare industry and their lobbying dollars.
That's not going to work. That's not how that works.
Guys, you have to address all the people at the table because otherwise they're going to try to eat you alive. Give them their cut. Have them develop and do the things that they're supposed to do. Have those who got medical licenses and have tried to just create adult use monopolies, have them play with the big boys if they want to be big boys. And then let hemp and cannabis be free. Like, let it be free. It should be over the counter. It's nutraceutical. Mm-hmm. Come on. Well, everybody can win here. That's my job as a mediator. Everybody can win. This sounds like a plan for reschedule. I would be careful. You got to let them know the specifics because then they get all
don't worry about that.
Everybody behind the word, the buzzword of the day, and they make law without fully understanding policy. And it's
like I said, I've spoken with Alex numerous times in regards with this, so he's very aware. He's very aware of what needs to be done.
If then, Jason, if he's aware, do we think that if they reschedule, how long do you give them to deschedule, if at all?
I don't think that they're going to reschedule at all. I just think that the messaging is there around rescheduling and people coalesce around that, and then at the same time, right at the last minute, you can just say, you know what, we're going to go to a full deschedule because rescheduling doesn't make sense.
I think they're going to reschedule.
Well, this message is not new. Mm-hmm. Francis Young, I think, made the same statement in 1985. He was a DEA administrative judge. Mm-hmm. That's a safe, medically active plant in the world.
Yep.
You know, basically, why in the hell are we treating it like this? But he didn't have the authority to do anything about it. And I think Clarence Thomas, you know, signaled what he would do if this issue of Schedule 1 ever came back up to the Supreme Court. Okay? After the rates decision, it's like, you know, there's no way that this substance qualifies for Schedule 1. And we were told back in 1970 when they signed this, it's going to be there in Schedule 1 until we can investigate it. And we all know that was a lie. They wouldn't do it. The Schafer Commission, you know, former Governor Schafer said, like LaGuardia, this
wasn't that your uncle, Dale?
Yeah, I wish. Small-time commerce in this, just leave it alone, okay? So if you look at people who objectively look from 30,000 feet at this, there isn't a question. But when you get down the weeds, you get all these goddamn political interests involved, and nobody can get anything done, even though most people agree it shouldn't be where it is, but it stays there because it's locked in there because of these entrenched political interests from pharmaceutical companies to alcohol to tobacco. Just these groups who think, it's going to ruin Western society if we allow people to smoke weed. Get a clue. People have been smoking weed for 5,000 years, and that's not what caused societies to collapse. Let's stop this. But at this point, I just keep hoping that this question or the question of interstate commerce control over this gets back before the Supreme Court. And I think that the court would pull the plug on where it is. And then the Congress has to take an action or it's free from the Controlled Substances Act. I don't know how they're going to figure that out, but stop playing around with this and make the Congress do something like deschedule and put it in ATF. Because
TTB.
trying to stick it into the Controlled Substances Act, where do you put it? It isn't even a Schedule 5.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work as any schedule number. It needs to be totally descheduled. That's the only solution.
it's got no ATF, no TABC, no treat it like alcohol.
TTB,
we gotta
TTB and ATF.
The nuance we have, because so in Texas, we're recommending the Texas Hemp and Cannabis Commission. And it's another agency. We got to treat it. We got to be smart about how we evolve this. And we have to look at it. There's a medical vertical. There is an adult use nutraceutical vertical.
No. There's just a nutraceutical vertical, and that's it. Period.
No, there's also
there's not. It's just a nutraceutical. It just needs to be treated as a nutraceutical and be open to the public for people to purchase, and that's it. End of story. Done.
Gonna get the legislators to see it that way ever because of the way that you guys sold it. Half of them are under the Alcohol Beverage Commission in their states. Because we said tax it and regulate it like alcohol and tobacco. Too late to put that one back in, but hold up, because when it comes to having it available, like you said, instead of in your grocery store, you can have it in your grocery store as an over-the-counter nutraceutical. And then if you want adult use vice market, that is still available. There's still a way to do that.
That's all the same product though, Shaun. That's what I'm trying to say. It's all the same product. You're not going to have all the same product available and only buy it like this and buy like that, buy like that. It just needs to be treated as a nutraceutical and an over-the-counter thing. End of story. Done.
In bars, and you got some guy who's tapping the keg and he consumes like 200,000 milligrams of something.
He's fine. He's just going to take a nap.
You got to speak their language.
He's just going to take a nap. He's just going to take a nap. It's not like it's not like going and swallowing a whole bottle of Tylenol. It's not the same thing.
I completely respect how the people with interest definitely have to argue all the way for their side. And then the other guys, I got to anticipate that they're going to argue all the way for their side. And I'm telling you, if we're going to come to the middle, these are the three lenses that we should probably look at the market in, because those are the three different consumer groups, to be realistic. And the bulk majority will be in the nutraceutical market, but we still have to address, how do we regulate medically?
We don't need to regulate because nutraceutical is medical.
No.
Yes, it is. That's why it's called a nutraceutical.
Start creating pharmaceutical grade products.
Pharmaceutical grade products is a totally different thing, and that's going to be done by pharmaceutical companies with single compounds that aren't going to end up working, and they already have those available on the market, and they're not doing any good.
That's what medical cannabis should be going to.
No way, not at all. I totally disagree with that. Dale, what do you got to say? Final words, Dale.
Adult use.
Well, at some point we'll have some sort of a cough syrup type with
some scissor,
and that may be as far as it goes with medical. Okay, I
distillate cough syrup, huh, Dale?
Well, you can buy APC with codeine right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's prescribed to you, and you find alcohol in pharmaceuticals too, but it's also allowed to be, consumed outside the medical market. There are corollaries out there. We just have to get beyond the entrenched feeling that, we can't change this because it's going to ruin society or it's going to interrupt my business interest. How do we get to the middle, Shaun? I agree. I've been a mediator before. I've tried to solve problems. I've also been a settlement judge where I'm sworn in pro tem and I start cussing at people. You fucking idiot. This guy, get your adjuster on the goddamn phone for me right now. I'm going to scream at him.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't get that when you're in politics. It's just a problem. And I don't know how to fix it because I'm frustrated here in California because the cannabis industry is the epitome of what's wrong with California politics, overtax and overregulation. And it seems like it's going everywhere, red or blue state, we're having the same problems. We tax the shit out of it, overregulate it, and then the trap's just going, hey, you guys keep fighting because I'm making money.
In the meantime, the patients and the consumers are disservice the most. And it's wrong. It's wrong to do that. We got to do better. That's why I like my 3 verticals.
Nah, it's not going to work.
How do you do it? Dale asked me, how do you do it? You be a little weirdo like me who is just, I got a thing for public service, and you mediate little cases and you help people figure things out, and you do conflict management for a while, and you get the crazy fucking idea to do pro bono lobbying and actually do the work at Texas, meet with the legislators, understand their arguments and concerns, because we're in divorce court, baby. That's how the law is made in the United States. That's the way it feels.
Oh, that was such a great show in the 80s, Divorce Court. That was so good. They had great graphics too.
Hey, we have Republicans and Democrats, and they're divorced, and they're dating other people. They're dating MAGA people, and they're dating the Democratic socialists.
MAGA people are real Republicans, not rhinos.
Like a stepdad, and we're all trying to figure things out. And I got to bring you guys all to the table, and we have to come up with some common language. And I think because medical pharmaceutical will need regulation, and a nutraceutical will also need regulation, and the vice market will.
There's already regulation set up for nutraceuticals. It just needs to put in that classification and be done and out the door. And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested, and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on. And thank you all to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.